Why do you stop drinking and then keep hanging around the same people and places? If that's what you're doing, just stop it. Just not drinking with the same people in the same places is never going to keep you sober. You've got to build a life, new life, surrounded around people that support that new sober life you're trying to live and in safe environments. I've got a lot of experience staying sober and I want to share with you what's worked for me. It's pretty simple. There's only two things you got to change. Change your people and you got to change your places. You're not going to get sober and stay sober if you keep surrounding yourself around the same people you drink with and keep hanging around those same places. Your new people should be those that don't drink, or at least didn't drink like we did. Your new places should be places that don't involve drinking, especially in the very beginning. Later on, when you get comfortable, you can go back to some of those old places if you need to, but only if you have a valid reason for being there, not for nostalgia and thinking about how great the old times were. You need to create new times in new safe places with new safe people. This might sound like everything in my life needs to change, and you are exactly right. If you're still hanging around the same people and places and you keep failing to stay away from the drink, this is your wake-up call. You've got to change things that you haven't changed before if you want to stay sober. So how do you build a new support network? Let's cover some basics. Let's cover how to change your people. First thing to do in changing your people is to distance yourself from that old crowd. First thing is just stop showing up at the bar. How difficult is that? I know it was difficult for me to understand that, but just stop going. That's 90% of my bar drinking, my fraternity house drinking, all the rest of the nonsense. Stop showing up. If it's weekend sports with the guys, tell them you're busy. Make up an excuse, any excuse, but don't go. Don't trap yourself into that. Same goes for that drink with coworkers after work, whoever they are. Give them some excuse why you can't hang out. It's particularly hard for like restaurant workers and bartenders and things because they kind of hang out where they worked. But still, same thing. Give them an excuse. I gotta go home. I can't stay here, and don't follow them to some other bar after work. If you have a spouse or significant other that you live with who drinks, you probably going to have an honest conversation with them to not drink where you live, at least for a little while. Don't say forever. Don't say you can't, and it's just an absolute. Just deliver it as a message that it needs to be for a period of time. You need to have a good start to your sobriety, and would you help me by not drinking in the house for a little while, please? They're either going to be on board with you or they're not. You're going to have a lot of outside support if they're not, with the emotions of living with that person that doesn't seem to respect your sobriety enough to curb their own drinking. But then again, we've done a lot to damage them as well. So you're just going to have a lot of support if they're not willing to support you. If you really have some people that you value as friends, but you've been doing a lot of drinking with them and it really means something to you to keep that relationship up, by all means, please keep it up. But do it without going to the bar, without hanging around them while there's drinking. Try to go to dinner with them, have lunch. But before you do that, have a conversation with them, because if you want them to be meaningful in your life, you're going to have conversations that you might not want to have, that are uncomfortable. Tell them what you're doing. Tell them that when we hang out, I would rather you not drink at the dinners and lunches you go to. You can't really expect that if you go to their house, but you can expect it if they come over to your house. Just by having that conversation, kind of setting that boundary for interaction is going to help your anxiety about meeting them more than anything else, and make it a little bit easier to go and have that lunch or that dinner, or have them come over to your house and really not expect them to bring over a bottle of wine or to ask them what's going on about your drinking. Your relationship with those friends that you want to stay friends with, it's going to have to change. You may not see them as often, and it's definitely not going to look like the relationship you had in the past. But if they're truly going to stay your friends, they'll take the change. You're going to have the change, and they will accept it as a new way of life for you. Second thing you need to do to change the people is to find new ones. You've kind of removed, or at least changed your habits and your people. So now you have no people, or very few people. So you might be asking yourself, well, where do I find these new people? Well, that's a great question. You know, I'm an alcoholic. I'm part of a 12-step program. So that's my first answer. I tried everything else. Nothing really worked for me. 12-step program has a built-in network of people trying to stay sober. Go figure. It was great for me because I would go to meetings and there'd be people there on the same path, and you know, but like anywhere else, there's different people out there in the world. There's different people in 12-step programs. So even within that program, even though you're still there for the same purpose of trying to stay sober and to get sober and help other people, you're going to have to find your people within that 12-step group. So if you've been to one before, been to meetings before, and you just didn't feel comfortable with the people, go to different meetings, go to more meetings. You will find your people within them. You will also find the people that you don't want to be with. You know, the 12-step program is pretty famous for saying that, you know, we're a group of people that usually wouldn't mix. Well, we have a common purpose of trying to help each other stay sober, but outside of that, you know, you can find the people that you mix with. Church is another great way to find new people to hang out with. If you're a religious person, you've got a church, go. If you're a religious person, don't have a church, find one and go. If you're already going, go more often. You know, get back into some church-related activities outside of just going to services. Other places you can find people to hang out with, just like a dating app. There are apps out there that cater to finding friends and other friend groups based on common interests, like biking or hiking or kayaking or mountain climbing or any other sports you can think of, disc golf, tennis, pickleball, you pick it. There are apps out there to help connect people to, you know, do things outside, do things inside, you know, play cards, whatever, but finding new places. That's what we're trying to focus on. 12-step program, church, friend apps. But the real true answer is it's really going to depend on you and the work you're willing to put into finding new people to hang out with, and not just sliding back into old behavior and old thinking and going back to the old friends and trying not to drink. You know, that's kind of like white knuckling sobriety. I don't want to fight not drinking. I want to have fun. I want to, you know, be alive. I didn't stop drinking to be miserable and have no friends. But I've got to put some work in. You know, relationships are not easy. If you don't have that live, local, and in-person support, you're not going to make it. So what I'm referring to here is online, Facebook communities, you know, meetings online, that kind of stuff. You got to have people you can meet with. I'm not going to go to a movie online. I'm not having lunch with someone online. I'm not going fishing or biking or hunting or whatever online. I've got to have people that I can see and interact with. That's kind of what we're all built for, is to interact with other people. You know, being alone is not, again, it's not why I got sober. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's touch on a little bit on how to change the places that we used to drink at, and it will likely trigger relapses. First thing is just getting rid of the old places. Stop going. That's easy. Stop going to the bar. Stop going to the drug dealer's house. Don't go down the beer aisle at the grocery store if that's something that bothers you. Just don't do it. All those watch parties, guys, I'm talking usually sports events, ladies, whatever, housewives, 90-day fiancé, say yes to the dress, rerun, whatever that night is, don't go. Or if any other premiere or season finale or whatever show is out there you're usually, you know, watching or looking forward to, and those events are usually drunk fests, don't go. But if there's not drinking that happens at those places for whatever reason, you can go. Just don't surround yourself around a bunch of people where their purpose is to have fun and get drunk. Your purpose right now is to stay sober and away from the drinking and away from that nostalgia that might get you in trouble, might get you thinking that drinking is a good idea again. because, if you're listening to this video, it's probably not your first shot of not drinking or trying to stop drinking. So how do we find those new places? If we've stopped going to the old ones, what do we do about finding the new ones? Well, it's largely going to depend on those new friends that you try to connect with. First, to answer again, 12-step program, meetings. Great place. They're a safe place to be at. And the side benefit of that is, of course, you're going to find out more about your alcoholism, and you're going to find a bunch of sober people on a sober path that you can hang out with. That's going to lead to a new group of people, and it leads to a new places to hang out with outside of meetings, like new places to go have lunch, to go eat, go back to the movie theater, which I never went to when I was drunk because you couldn't drink in the theater. Go to the pool hall, go bowling, whatever. If you're a religious person and you have a church, get back into church. That's a place to go. So your services, there's always some sort of, maybe a midweek, weekends. But if you're just doing that, why don't you add in some, other church activities? There's usually either Bible studies or some sort of book study or group that meets outside of just services. And that's going to, again, take time and a place to go, but it's also going to give you the opportunity to meet new people. Just like going to meetings is a place to go. You're going to meet new people in the church. You could get, those new places could look like getting back into hobbies that you pushed aside while you were drinking. I stopped hunting and fishing. I stopped bike riding. I didn't really do much hiking and stuff like that. I wasn't going to the gym a whole lot while I was drinking, but I did do, in high school and early life, I enjoyed going to the gym. All that stuff I pushed aside because it interfered with my drinking. I started fishing again, riding my mountain bike again, going back to the gym. I wasn't doing much of the hunting. I did more, sporting clay shooting, but I got back into some of that stuff, and that stuff took time. There were places to go. And again, if I'm going to these new places, I'm meeting new people, I have an opportunity to put myself out there to just say, hey, my name is. And there you go. You started a conversation with someone new that might turn into a friendship. Now, new places are really going to also depend, just like the new people, on what you're willing to do. How far are you willing to go to really change your behavior? Filling the time created by not having this place to drink at is what needs to be filled. I found that any idle time that I had was really dangerous for me. I got back up into my head. Early sobriety, I couldn't sit by myself. There was all that negative stuff that I did, all those bad things that I judged myself on, where I tried to drown out those feelings by drinking. So until I could deal with those things in an appropriate way, I had to fill my time with as much stuff as I could do. When I got sober, I really was only built for 5 things, and it filled up my entire day. I went to work, I went to the gym, I went to a meeting, I went to dinner, then I went to bed. Rinse and repeat. Pretty simple. I think I got up at like 6 a.m., got off work at 5, went to the gym, went to a meeting or dinner, kind of depending on which, what day it was. Meeting and dinner, they were both kind of interchangeable depending on what time it was. And after the meeting or dinner, I went to bed. That's it. My day was full. I didn't have time to lay on the couch. I didn't have time to think about, not drinking. I didn't have time to think about all the people I wasn't hanging out with or what I was missing. Biggest fear I had and the biggest thought I had is fear of missing out. What's going on that I'm missing out at the bar, or at that Sunday night football game? What am I missing out? What kind of fun am I missing? I forgot that the fun I'm missing out on is puking in my lap, peeing in the bed, puking in the bathroom in the morning. That's fun. Then go right ahead. Keep on drinking. I'll be here to help you out when you come back. But if I thought that was fun, I really need to have a reality check. That's not fun. Getting sober gives me a chance to find out what I really like, what's really fun, and who I really want as friends. Once I got past the shock and fear of, oh my God, my life is over and I'm never going to have fun again, that's when I really found out what a real life looks like and could be like, and what real friends are like and could be like, and then I could actually have them. That's the hard part. I truly didn't believe I could have real friends and a real life without drinking. And I didn't think I was really worth it. And that's when I, kind of started drinking to try to fit in and make sure I didn't have those feelings anymore. But I never thought my life would be as full as it is today, and that it would not be possible if I were still drinking. Changing friends and the places I used to hang out with was not easy, and it wasn't fun. I have very few friends that I had while I was drinking. Some of them I've known since I was a kid, and that's really the only reason that I have them still today, is we have a lot of common things outside of the drinking that used to happen together. But all those new friends that I have today, I wouldn't change any of them for anything in the world. They are supportive. We're on the same sober path today. I can call them up and they can let me know what really is going on with me, because I get so wrapped up in my own emotions, I don't know really what's going on. And I can do the same thing for them. I get help from them. I give them help. That's what it's all about. So today, I would not be sober today without changing all those places that I used to drink at and changing all those friends that I thought were friends. If you like what you heard, please give me a like, a share, a comment. I've got a lot of sobriety, a lot of experiences I'd love to share with y'all. Hope y'all have a great sober day.